was for a decline of 1.5%. We do have an upgrade, an upward revision to the first quarter number. That number initially came in at 2.4%, positive 2.4% growth. That number now stands at 2.5%. So what we have lost on the June number, we seem to have perhaps made up a bit on the first quarter number. The June numbers
shown through the aggregate demand, aggregate supply graph. The R in IRAPS shows that high resource prices due to the loss of oil production rigs from the fire results in a leftward shift of the aggregate supply curve. The higher resource prices cause the price level of gasoline to go up for consumers because there is less output. For the economy to go back to full employment, the government should enact fiscal policy and reduce taxes or increase spending.
This is known as a negative aggregate supply shock, which results in a decrease in output but an increase in price level. This is an example of stagflation, where the economic growth is falling or stagnant, but the inflation is present, so there's a rising price level. In our specific example of Canada, a quarter of Canada's oil production was halted as a result of the fire, and their lost output cost the Albertan government $70 billion, and it contributed to rising global oil prices.
The expectation. Emmanuel, can you give us some brief reaction now that the numbers are out?
Sure. I think the key numbers to focus on here are the quarterly numbers, down 1.6, and then the June GDP number month on month, up 0.6. And what that tells us is that, yes, we had a difficult quarter in the second quarter. We saw a contraction in growth, which is quite negative. But the fact that June rebounded by 0.6% gives you a sense that a lot of that weakness was front-end loaded. And as we're going into the third quarter, we have a very strong handoff. So we had a big rebound in June. It sets us up for a good July and a very solid third quarter. So I would expect that Q3 growth could be quite solid on the back of a very weak Q2. So the headline is negative, but the details don't look that bad.
Hey Emmanuel, it's Dennis. I'm wondering about Canadian consumer spending. You mentioned it in your recent note. Is that enough to carry the Canadian GDP numbers in the second half of the year?
Well, I'm not sure what consumption did this past quarter, but if you look at the details, consumers are going to be supported by this child care benefit, which already hit the data, already hit the bank accounts. Yes, we will get a boost from consumers temporarily, but the bottom line is that hiring is quite weak and wages are stagnant. So we really need to see companies more confident in the recovery and confident enough to start hiring again in order for that consumption growth to be sustainable.
I'll give you that consumption number, Emmanuel. A final consumption expenditure in this release, this gross domestic product release, comes in at positive 2.8%. And as I'm sure you know, that is a much stronger number than we've seen over the past trailing 4 quarters. We've gone from the third quarter of 2015 at 1.8% to the fourth quarter of 2015 at 1.4% to the first quarter of this year at 2.5% to now 2.8% in the period just reported. Household consumption stands at 2.2%, non-profit consumption at 7.4%, and government consumption at 4.2%.